All right, fellas, welcome back to Infinite Audio. We're here at Mixing Tutorial Part 2. So I went ahead and re-updated the notes here. And on the compression, there's more to it. There's de-essing, there's limiting, there's gating, which are all forms of compression as well. So you can screenshot this one instead. And if you want to keep the other one, it's fine if you want to delete it. But this is the one that I recommend you do screenshot because it has more into it. Now, there's also various types of EQs as well, but it's really that one's not really as much as as a sub as compression, because de-essing is a form of compression, limiting is a form of compression, gating is also a form of compression. So that's why I asterisk those in the bottom. I did a little bit of de-essing on the vocals. I'll show you that in just a moment. Limiting, when to use a limiter, when to apply one. Does not replace mastering, but it does help as far as bringing certain levels without peaking. Some like to do it like that, some don't. That's more of a personal preference, a matter of opinion. You figure out what works best for you. Because maybe in this setting, limiting won't work, but when you're making beats for an artist, limiting might be the way to go. So just to keep that in mind. Gating. Gating is mostly used in live settings and live streaming. Very rarely is it used in a studio setting unless the situation calls for it, unless it's necessary. But that's very rare. It's mostly in a live setting and in live streaming and more live applications. Of course, we added some reverb, some delay. I didn't add delay on the previous session, but for the sake of this, that's why I made part 2. I went ahead and did add a little bit of delay here. I added a stereo delay here at a 1/4. All the same, no crossover, just to add a little bit of that. All very subtle in the mix. You don't hear that. When you hear it solo, I'll play for you guys solo. You can hear that delay. But as it's playing with all the instruments, it's very blended in, and you can barely tell. Um, so I went ahead and did that for you guys because there was no this delay is very crucial, and I had to demonstrate it for you guys. Now there's a whole lot more that goes into this besides just this is the fun part about mixing. you know this is, first of all, when you have the audio tracks, you have to make sure that that the audio that the audio is in the right format. 44 1 hertz. We're doing stereo, but I sometimes I do a lot of surround, so I just keep it like that. And so the thing is, you have to make sure that the tempo, that the bit depth, and the sample rate are the same. So if your audio files all say 44 1 hertz at you know, uh, 32, then you have to put it at 32 44 1. Or if it's at 48 hertz, 32-bit floating 48, then you have to make the session at 32-bit 48. But that's another session. That's I can't give all the sauce away. But the thing is that with this right here, you can have fun with mixing, because I give you guys this um, tutorial here because I know a lot of y'all are mixing your own stuff. You guys, for whatever reason, you're barely getting started. You can't afford to pay 100, 200 bucks for a professional mixer. So what I do is I just give you guys just the basics. There is so much more that goes into this. And those that are academically trained, like those that go to SAE, Berkeley, Full Sail, they know that there's way more that goes into this. So what I'm giving you guys is just like a very simple, easy to break down version of mixing, just so that you guys can have fun doing this for yourselves, not to do this professionally for other people, because there's more to it. Not just there's just so much more. And those of us that are academically trained, we understand this. There's a lot that goes into this to make it a full rounded picture. This is actually the fun part: setting up the session, making sure everything's in order, IOs, plugins, making which DAW, the client's requests, revisions, payment processing, going back and forth with clients. This goes so much beyond. This is actually just the fun stuff. In a lot of studios, they'll have assistant mixers just set up the session and get it ready, do that legwork so that the main mixer can just come in and get to mixing and do the fun stuff that we're doing here now. But they have people for that. You're doing this on your own, so that's why I have those 12 steps here, because you're doing this by yourself. When you're in a major studio, when you got assistants and whatnot, and you're paying other people, they can do all of this for you, set all of this up for you, and then you just show up to do the fun stuff. So, but like I said, this goes beyond. You have to understand the I/O settings of your DAW, the audio files, the information on your audio files. There's more to it, man. Dealing with the people, with clients. Sometimes they don't even send you the right files. Sometimes there's missing files, and then they send the rest of them later. Sometimes it's weird. There's so many different things. Different clients have different attitudes, different needs. The way you talk to one client's not the way you talk to the other, and that has nothing to do with what I'm showing you guys here. This is for you guys by yourself, so that you guys can enjoy mixing in your own DAW, not to do it professionally for someone else. So let's just get that disclaimer out there, right? I'm doing this so that you guys can follow my channel, learn what you guys can learn, and we can have fun in this. But not to try to run off with the sauce and think that you're going to win a Grammy mixing someone's record now. Not that it can't happen, but it's very, very unlikely, because there's so much more that goes into this and that. And there's people who sell courses, who are Grammy winners, and I would recommend you take their courses and actually pay the money to buy their courses, if you're not academically trained and you actually want to do this for a living. But here, for me, what I'm doing with you guys, I'm just giving you guys a quick 12 steps so that you can mix in your DAW and have fun, and get into the practice of actually doing the mixing itself. But being a professional mixer takes so much more. There is so much more that goes into this than just working in a DAW alone. So with that being said, let's go ahead and check this out. Let me take off the notes here and show you guys where I did the delay, the stereo delay here. Whoa, what's going on here? Okay, it's right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and solo it where I placed it, so you guys can hear the delay. Let's see if it's fast forward to here. Can't trust no one. Too late when the moment's gone. Can't go back and change your mind. Switch it up and press rewind. Have another drink, it'll make you feel better. You hear that delay? So you hear that tail end of the delay where I added that. And I didn't do it on the first one, because I didn't think it was necessary. But I said, you know what? I got to show these guys. It's very, most mixes, most genres do have a delay, and so I wanted to make it easy. Put it all on 1/4. It's all 1/4 here, right and left. No crossover, just simple, in a straight routing. And so let's bring that back one more time. Play that again. Right, so now let's hear it back unsoloed, and let's see, because you have to understand, people are going to listen to the song with all the instruments. They're not going to listen to it on solo, right? And you hear this a lot, and it's true, because when you unsolo everything, you don't really hear that tail end of the delay. See, so when you put it in the context of all the instruments, you start to realize that this is how they're really going to hear it, and not by itself where you hear that huge tail end of the delay. So it's all about blending in this. So that blended very well. So we did that right there, and also, what else did we add? Mm, of course, we added some limiting on it because we don't want our levels to peak. So we're using the limiter on it. It's on. We have the limiter on. So we're using the limiting side to it. So we got a stereo spread because everything was real mono-ish. We covered that on the first part, and then the stereo tool right here, which is what we want to see. There you go. So you see, so we got a real good stereo there with that stereo spread whitener that we put here. Because when you take it off, it gets very mono-ish, and a lot of these tracks were recorded in mono. So putting a stereo spread was the thing to do, specifically because all these tracks were recorded in mono. And so when you put the stereo check to the stereo tool, even when you tried to phase things out, it was very mono-ish. So this was really the tool here that made it happen. And it's all about the tools. So, whether they're stock plugins or whether they're third-party plugins, they're tools, and you use tools for a reason. Not because they're popular, not because you see other people using it. It's because you understand why you're using it, right? So we went ahead and did that, did volume faders, and so pretty much this consists of the final mix already. So at this point, what I can do is I can bounce all these tracks individually, one by one, already mixed. These are stems. These are now stems. These are no longer raw trackouts because I mixed them. The mixing is automated in them. So these are now stems. They're no longer raw trackouts. They were raw trackouts when I first imported them in, and because it was just raw tracking, raw recordings. But now that I've added these 12 steps to it, now that I've did all these things, now that I've put the gain stage, the volume, the EQ, the compression, the reverb, the delay, the automation, the stereo check, now these are stems now. They're no longer raw trackouts. So these have to go in a separate folder. Now, also, that's another thing that goes into mixing, file management. Okay, you have to know how exactly are you going to export these files, because sometimes the client requests them in a different way. Sometimes they want it dither down to 1644.1 because they plan on releasing it either on distribution or they want it pressed for CDs. So 1644.1 is how they're going to want it, so you'll have to dither them out into that. That's a whole nother video. This is what I'm saying. There's a whole lot more that goes into this. Also, or you can just, bounce out the track here on Logic. You can go to bounce, and then you can bounce the entire project or section right here, and you'll bounce out the entire track already mixed into a 2-track, either WAV or MP3. That's one way of doing it. And then there's another way, which I've done on my other, actually on my TikTok channel. I demonstrated it using Pro Tools, but it works just the same here in Logic, where I'll end up routing all of these tracks here into one sub, and then get another audio track, and then record the entire trackouts into one 2-track mix. And what that does is that captures all of the plugins. It captures all of the plugins and all of the how can you say, everything that was in the mix that may not be available because DAWs upgrade, plugins get updated or no longer used anymore. They get discontinued. So a lot of the times when you want to recall that session, many years later, you may or may not be able to get it because those plugins may have been outdated or no longer available. So what you do in that case is that you record everything into a 2-track to make sure that all those plugins in the mix are captured. So if that were to ever occur, You don't need to recall the session. That 2 track has everything the way you intended it to mix. The track outs may or may not be available, but at least you got the 2 tracks, the 2 track with the mix printed into it. So, with that being said, we're gonna go ahead to go to our notes real quick, and then just give you guys a quick way that you can bounce it out. I'm gonna go ahead and edit right here. Let me go ahead right here, and then so bounces or exports, whatever you want to call it, can be bounce one by one, bounce each track one by one, and that'll be the multi-track right there. Or you can bounce entire project or section, and Logic will bounce that for you in either an MP3 or a wave. Or you can print the mix on a audio track via all tracks routed to a sub. So we'll name this one way. That's one way to do it here. To here or 3 here. Right, so making sure the grammar's correct, the punctuation's correct. There you go. So those are these are the ways right here. So I'm going to highlight that for you right here. You can bounce them out one by one, each track into a folder already with the mix stems. That's the safe way to do it too. I would recommend that if you more than likely know that you'll be sending it to another mixer or a mastering engineer. They're probably going to want every single track. 2, you can bounce out the entire track via Logic on hitting the file menu, and it'll export it in both WAV and MP3 if you choose. And then last but not least, you can print the mix on a 2-track with all the tracks routed to a sub being recorded into a new audio track. So you could do all 3 if you want, or just 1, or just 2 out of 3, whichever you feel comfortable with. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys apply this into your mixing when you're at home in your DAW. Especially if it doesn't matter what DAW you're using, you can take those 12 steps and apply them in your own way. And hopefully you guys get some awesome results, and I hope you guys have fun with this, because this is meant to have fun. So go ahead and I'll give you guys happy mixing. And don't forget that if you guys need any type of help audio wise, you guys can reach out to me on my DMs, on my email, social media, my website. You can also, if you need mixing services, you can hire me on SoundBetter. You can hire me on Fiverr, or you can just come to me straight directly to my website and cultivate the relationship directly with me. And that'll be the way that I recommend it, so that I can find out exactly what it is that you need help with. And if I can help you with that, I most certainly will if it comes to mixing. And if it's something more beyond, I'll refer you to somebody that's in my network who will be more than capable of helping you with those things. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up real quick. I'm going to stop my share real quick. And I really hope that this helps. And once again, if you need any professional mixing services, be sure to hit me up at Infinite Audio. Reach me out here on YouTube. You can reach me out also on my Facebook page, or you can go straight to my website at Infinite Audio and reach out to me, or my email. I leave that all in the description below. And don't forget, I also sell gear on Reverb. So I have my own shop, David's Gear Outlet, on Reverb, and anytime I get some new gear, I'll let you guys know. I'll post it up, and if you shop with me, I'll sell it to you at a discount. And all you have to say is, I saw your video tutorial, I saw your mixing tutorial, I saw your gear review on this gear, and whatnot. So, with all that being said, go ahead and wrap it up, and happy mixing.